Have you ever felt that despite doing everything right, something was still missing? That's how I felt, though I wouldn't admit it then. My name is Ibrahim, and for 43 years, I believed I had all the answers. As an Imam at our local mosque, I didn't just practice Islam, I lived and breathed it with every fiber of my being. The memory of my father teaching me the Quran still brings tears to my eyes. His weathered hands would guide mine across the Arabic text, his voice gentle but firm as he taught me proper recitation. Ibrahim, he would say, Allah has blessed you with a gift for understanding His words. Those moments shaped my entire world, building a foundation I thought would never shake. By 30, I had memorized the entire Quran, performed Hajj twice, and earned respect as a scholar of Islamic law. You know that feeling of absolute certainty? That's what I had, or thought I had. During interfaith dialogues, I took particular pride in defending Islam against Christianity. The concept of God having a son seemed not just incorrect, but offensive to everything I held sacred. If only I had known then what I know now. That warm September evening started like any other. The sun was setting as I prepared to lead Maghrib prayer, the familiar words of the Adhan echoing through the mosque. Strange, isn't it, how life can change in a heartbeat? The first twinge in my chest seemed insignificant, just a minor discomfort. Have you ever ignored warning signs, telling yourself everything was fine? As I continued leading the prayer, each word became more difficult than the last. The pain grew until it felt like an iron band crushing my chest. I saw the concern in the eyes of the congregation, their faces blurring as I struggled to remain standing. One brother, a doctor, rushed forward as I finally collapsed. His words seemed to come from far away. He's having a heart attack. The ambulance ride is mostly a blur now, but I remember the paramedic's face, young, worried, professional. I kept reciting the Shahada, each word a desperate anchor to everything I believed. La ilaha illa Allah, Muhammad Rasul Allah. The words that had always brought comfort now felt hollow, distant. Why, I wondered. Why now, Allah? Why me? Then everything changed. The moment of transition was unlike anything I could have imagined. 1 second, I was aware of the hospital lights, the urgent voices, my wife Amira's tears, and the next, I was floating above my own body. Have you ever had a dream where you're watching yourself from above? This was different. This was real. I watched the medical team working frantically to save my life. Their movements seemed choreographed, almost beautiful in their urgency. Amira stood in the corner, her hijab askew, hands clasped in desperate prayer. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be all right. But I couldn't. Instead, I felt myself being drawn away by something I couldn't resist. A light that defied description. This wasn't ordinary light. How do I explain it? Imagine the warmest, most loving embrace you've ever felt, transformed into pure radiance. It pulsed with life, with purpose, with love. As I moved toward it, every pain, every worry, every fear simply dissolved. Is this what we've all been searching for, I wondered, without even knowing it? And then, I saw him. Even now, years later, I struggle to find words adequate to describe that moment. Through the brilliant light, a figure emerged. Every atom of my being recognized him, though I had spent my life denying his divinity. Jesus Christ, Isa al-Masih, stood before me, but not as I had known him from Islamic teachings. This wasn't merely a prophet. This was everything. His eyes. How do I describe his eyes? They held the depth of eternity and the intimacy of a close friend. Have you ever felt truly seen? Not just looked at, but truly known, understood, and loved completely? That's what his gaze felt like. Ibrahim, he said, and my name in his voice felt like a key, unlocking a door I hadn't known existed. You have sought me in shadows, but I am the light. You have searched for truth in laws, but I am the truth. You have pursued life through works, but I am the life. The tears came then, hot and heavy. How many times had I argued against his divinity? How many people had I led away from him? The weight of it crushed me more than any physical pain ever could. As if reading my thoughts wasn't he. Jesus stepped closer. The love radiating from him was overwhelming. Your heart has always sought God, he said gently. Now it's time to know him as Father through me. With a gesture, he showed me visions that shook my understanding to its core. I saw the sacrifice of Abraham, with new eyes, the Father willing to give his Son, pointing to a greater sacrifice to come. I saw the Passover lamb, its blood protecting from death, foreshadowing a perfect sacrifice. Every story I had known from both the Quran and Bible suddenly aligned like stars forming a constellation, all pointing to Jesus. Then he showed me two paths. One led to indescribable glory. Imagine every moment of joy you've ever experienced, multiplied by infinity and bathed in perfect peace. The other, even now I shudder to describe it, led to darkness and despair. The cries from that darkness still haunt my dreams. This choice, he said, is why I came, not to condemn, but to save, to offer grace where law could not reach. Have you ever had a moment when everything you thought you knew suddenly shifted, and the world looked completely different? Standing there, in his presence, all my carefully constructed arguments about earning salvation through good deeds felt like trying to drain an ocean with a teaspoon. Will you follow me? Such simple words, such an impossible weight. Everything I had built my life upon hung in the balance. My position as Imam, my standing in the community, my family relationships, following him would risk it all. But how could I say no to truth itself? Yes, Lord, I whispered, and the chains I hadn't known I was wearing fell away. Return, he said, and tell others what you have seen. I will be with you. The light began to fade, and I felt myself being pulled back to my body. But something had changed. I was no longer the same person who had left it. The doctors called my recovery a medical miracle. 3 minutes without a pulse, yet no brain damage. But the real miracle was what had happened to my soul. The days that followed tested everything he had promised. How do you tell your wife that everything you've both believed needs to be reimagined? How do you face your congregation when you've encountered a truth that changes everything? Each day brought new challenges, but also new revelations. Some rejected me immediately. That hurt, but I understood. Others responded with anger or threats. We eventually had to move to a different city for our safety. But through it all, his promise held true. I will be with you. Today, 5 years later, I lead a small house church where other seekers gather to worship Jesus. Amira, and this still brings tears of joy to my eyes, had her own encounter with Christ after 2 years of struggling with my conversion. She now serves alongside me, her faith as strong as mine. Some of our children have followed our path. Others are still searching. We keep praying, knowing that each journey is unique. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment in the light, standing before Jesus. People ask if I regret my decision, if the cost was too high. But how can you regret finding what your soul has always been searching for? Yes, we lost friends. Yes, some family members no longer speak to us. But we gained something beyond price, a relationship with the living God through Jesus Christ. As I share this story with you now, I wonder, what are you seeking? Have you felt that same hunger for something more? That sense that there must be something deeper than religious rituals and rules? If you have, know that you're not alone. Jesus said, "Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you." This promise isn't just for some people. It's for everyone, including you. Perhaps you have questions, doubts, or your own story to share. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Your journey matters, and who knows? Maybe your story will be the light someone else needs to find their way home. My experience showed me that beyond all our human traditions and religious systems, there is a truth that transcends everything we think we know. That truth has a name: Jesus Christ. And He is waiting, with open arms, for all who would come to Him. What will your story be?